Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're kicking off the new year with a deep dive into something pretty incredible. We're talking about Generation Beta. You know, the generation being born right now in 2025. It's like we're witnessing the beginning of a whole new chapter in human history.
It really is. It makes you wonder what kind of world they'll inherit and what mark they'll leave on it.
So let's start with the basics. Who exactly are we talking about when we say Gen Beta?
Well, the research from McCrindle defines this generation as those born between 2025 and 2039.
Okay, so just a 15-year span.
Right. And their parents are, millennials and the older part of Gen Z. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that blend of parenting styles influences them.
That's a really good point. And how big is this generation going to be? I mean, globally.
Projections show that by 2035, they'll make up about 16% of the global population.
Wow. That's a significant chunk of people.
And get this, many of them will actually live to see the 22nd century.
The 22nd century. Now, that's long-term thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got their birth years and a sense their size, but why the name Beta? I mean, is there like a specific reason behind that?
Yeah, it's all about the Greek alphabet.
Okay.
Gen Beta follows Gen Alpha, which was born between 2010 and 2024. Using the Greek letters emphasizes how different these generations will be from the ones that came before. It's like a whole new era.
And I gotta say, I kind of like the Greek letter system. It definitely keeps things organized, and it kind of sounds cool, too. Okay, so we're talking about a new era. What makes it so different? It's got to be the tech, right?
You got it. Technology for Gen Beta won't be something they have to adapt to, It's going to be seamlessly woven into their lives right from the start.
Okay, so paint us a picture here. What kind of tech are we talking about?
Think AI, automation being everywhere, cars driving themselves, wearable health tech that's constantly monitoring their well-being, and virtual environments that are so immersive it's hard to tell what's real and what's not. All this stuff will be as normal to them as, say, smartphones are to us.
Wow. It's like something straight out of science fiction. But how do you raise kids in a world like that? I mean, parenting in that kind of environment has got to be a whole new ballgame.
It is. It's really interesting to see how different generations are approaching tech when it comes to raising their kids. For instance, millennials have embraced technology as a parenting tool, using it for everything from education to entertainment.
Right.
But Gen Z, they've grown up with both the pros and cons of all this technology, so they might be a little more cautious, a little more intentional about how much screen time they allow their Gen Beta kids and how they balance that digital world with real life experiences.
It's almost like each generation learns from the one before it.
Yeah.
Right? They try to figure out the best way to navigate this constantly changing world.
Exactly. And speaking of a changing world, Gen Beta is coming of age in a time with some pretty major challenges, Climate change, population shifts, and rapid urbanization.
Yeah, those are some serious issues that they're going to inherit. How do you think that's going to affect their outlook?
I think it's going to actually become a driving force in shaping their values. For them, sustainability won't just be an option. It's going to be a necessity. And with their millennial and Gen Z parents already emphasizing things like adaptability, equality, and eco-consciousness, I think it's likely they'll be even more globally minded, community-focused, and collaborative.
So we have this generation that's growing up in a world where technology is absolutely everywhere, and the stakes for dealing with global problems are higher than ever. But what about their social lives? I mean, how do they connect with each other when you have this constant digital interaction?
It's a great question, and I think it'll be a defining characteristic of this generation. I think they'll become incredibly skilled at managing their digital identities. They'll be curating their online presence, but at the same time be looking for those authentic connections in real life. It's going to be a balancing act between that hyperconnectivity and expressing their individuality.
It really makes you wonder what belonging will even mean to them.
Doesn't it? Imagine growing up where you can instantly connect with people who share your interests no matter where they are in the world. It challenges our traditional ideas of community.
It's like the lines between the physical and digital are becoming blurry, and it's creating this whole new social landscape. But with all this talk about tech and global challenges, what about the individual experience of growing up as a Gen Beta kid? What's it going to be like for them on a personal level?
Imagine a world where learning is completely personalized. Gen Beta will probably have AI tutors that adapt to their specific learning styles and needs. They could learn and develop skills at an incredible pace.
So no more one-size-fits-all education. That's a game changer. But wouldn't that also mean they need a whole new set of skills? How will they be able to navigate this flood of personalized information coming at them?
That's where critical thinking becomes absolutely crucial. One of the biggest skills Gen Beta will need is the ability to sift through all that information, recognize any biases, and determine what's actually true and valid.
So it's not just about being tech savvy, it's about being information literate. It's like having this built-in radar for spotting fake news and misinformation.
Exactly. And that skill will be essential in all parts of their lives, not just in school. They'll need to be discerning consumers, critical thinkers, and ethical users of technology.
It seems like they'll almost need a new set of guidelines for navigating the digital world, some kind of digital ethics code.
I think you're right. And those ethics will have to be based on values like empathy, inclusivity, and a deep understanding of how interconnected we all are.
So to recap, we've talked about who Gen Beta is, the super tech-filled world they're inheriting, the big challenges they'll be facing, and even how the whole idea of community might change for them. But what does it all mean? What's the takeaway for us, the generations that came before?
I think the big takeaway is that understanding Gen Beta isn't just about trying to predict the future, it's about actively shaping it.
What do you mean by that?
We have a responsibility to create a world where technology empowers them to reach their full potential, to really tackle these global challenges and build a more equitable and sustainable future for everybody.
It's a huge responsibility. Where do we even begin with something like that?
I think it starts with awareness. We need to understand the forces that are shaping this generation and be open to conversations about the best ways we can support them.
And how do we make sure that technology helps them thrive without compromising their well-being or their ability to think critically for themselves?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We need to find ways to make sure technology serves humanity and not the other way around. We need to ask ourselves how we can create a world for Gen Beta that's not just technologically advanced, but also just compassionate and sustainable.
Those are some really big questions, but they're definitely questions worth asking. This deep dive has given us a lot to think about in terms of our own roles in shaping the future.
I agree. It's an exciting time to be alive, witnessing the rise of a generation that's going to change the world in ways we can't even imagine right now. And the decisions that we make today, they're going to have a big impact on the world they inherit.
Absolutely. It all begins with understanding, recognizing what forces are at play here, and having these essential conversations about how we can create the best possible future for Gen Beta.
You put it perfectly.
This has been a really incredible deep dive into Generation Beta. Feels like we've only just scratched the surface, but it's given us a lot to think about.
I agree. It's amazing to think that the choices we make today will have such a ripple effect on the lives of this whole generation.
So to all our listeners out there, we want to leave you with this. Knowing what we now know about Generation Beta, how can we build a future where technology empowers them to create a better world?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we need to make sure it protects their well-being and their individuality.
It's a question that needs a lot of thought, and one that requires all of us to help shape the future that we want to see.
Thank you for joining us on this fascinating deep dive into Generation Beta, the generation that's just starting to make its mark on the world. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. And visit our website at loritalks.com for more inspiring content.
It's been a pleasure exploring this topic with you.
Thanks for listening to Lori Talks. We value your feedback, and we can't wait to hear from you. It's like they'll be growing up in this totally new world, a world we can only imagine.
Right, and it's going to shape them in ways we can't even fully grasp yet. Like, take education, for example.
Okay.
Imagine a world where learning is completely personalized. It's likely Gen Beta will have, AI tutors that adapt to their own specific learning styles, whatever their needs are.
So no more one-size-fits-all education.
Exactly. It could be revolutionary. Imagine them learning and developing skills at an incredible pace.
Yeah, that would be amazing. But wouldn't they need a whole new set of skills to even handle that? I mean, how do they navigate this huge amount of personalized information coming at them from all directions?
That's where critical thinking skills become so important. Probably the most valuable skill Gen Beta will need is the ability to sort through all that information and recognize any bias and then figure out what's actually valid.
So it's not just about knowing how to use the technology. It's about being information literate.
Right. It's like having this built-in system for spotting fake news and misinformation.
And that's going to be a crucial skill for them.
Absolutely. And not just in school either. They'll need it in every single aspect of their lives. They'll need to be smart consumers and critical thinkers and ethical users of all this technology.
It's like they'll need a whole new set of rules for navigating the digital world, almost like a digital ethics code.
I think you're right. And that code will need to be built on things like empathy and inclusivity and this deep understanding of how interconnected our world really is.
Okay, so let's step back for a second. We've talked about who Gen Beta is, the tech-saturated world they're inheriting, the global challenges they'll face, and even how the concept of community might evolve. But what does it all mean? What's the takeaway for us, the generations that came before?
I think the biggest takeaway here is that understanding Gen Beta isn't just about predicting the future, it's about actively shaping it.
What do you mean by that?
We have a responsibility to try and create a world where technology empowers Gen Beta to reach their full potential, to tackle these global challenges, and build a more equitable and sustainable future for everyone.
That's a big responsibility. Where do we even start with something like that?
It all starts with awareness. We have to try to understand the forces shaping this new generation and have these open conversations about how we can best support them.
And how do we make sure that technology helps them thrive, but doesn't, compromise their well-being or their ability to think for themselves?
Now that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We have to find ways to ensure technology actually serves humanity, not the other way around. We need to figure out how to create a world for Gen Beta that's not only technologically advanced, but also just deep, Luke, and compassionate and sustainable.
Those are some huge questions, but they're questions worth asking. This deep dive has given us a lot to consider about, our own roles in shaping the future.
I agree. It's a pretty exciting time to be alive, Yeah. Witnessing a whole new generation that's going to change the world in ways we probably can't even imagine. The decisions we make right now, they're going to have a huge impact on the world they inherit.
Absolutely. It all starts with understanding, recognizing those forces that are at work, and having these really crucial conversations about how we can create the best possible future for Gen Beta.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been an amazing deep dive into Generation Beta. It feels like we've just scratched the surface, but it's definitely given us a lot to think about.
Yeah. And it's pretty mind-blowing to think that the choices we make today will affect the lives of this entire generation.
So to all of our listeners out there, we're going to leave you with this question. Knowing what we know now about Generation Beta, how can we create a future where technology empowers them to make the world a better place, but also protects their well-being and their sense of individuality?
It's something that needs careful thought from all of us. It's about all of us working together to shape the future that we want to see.
It's really fascinating to think about how this all plays out, But while we've been focusing on the future, it kind of strikes me that there are some interesting parallels to the past.
Oh, for sure. History often repeats itself, doesn't it? Every generation has its own set of challenges and opportunities, and technology has always been this big driver of change.
Think about it. The printing press, the steam engine, the internet, each of those innovations completely changed society. And now we have AI and automation on the horizon.
Exactly. And just like generations before them, Gen Beta will find new ways to use these technologies to solve problems, create new forms of expression, and connect with each other.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities, but it also makes you realize how important it is to prepare them for the challenges that come with all these advancements.
Absolutely. We need to give them the critical thinking skills and ethical frameworks and the resilience they'll need to deal with this rapidly changing world.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into Generation Beta, what are some things we can do individually and collectively to help create a positive future for them?
Well, first off, I think it's important to encourage a sense of curiosity and wonder. We need to encourage them to explore and experiment and push the boundaries of what's possible with technology.
I love that, nurturing that spark of innovation. What else?
We also need to be mindful of creating these inclusive spaces where everyone has a chance to learn and grow and contribute. That means tackling things like digital equity and making sure everyone has access to technology and education, no matter their background or where they live.
That's a really important point. Everyone deserves a chance to thrive in this new world. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's also important to instill a sense of responsibility. We need to help Gen Beta understand how powerful technology is and encourage them to use it ethically and for good.
So fostering innovation, promoting inclusivity, and instilling responsibility. Those sound like really strong guiding principles as we move forward with Gen Beta into this uncharted territory.
I think so. And, even though we talk about Gen Beta like it's this separate group, the reality is generational lines are blurry. We're all in this together, figuring it out as we go.
That's a really important point. This isn't just about getting the next generation ready. It's about all of us working together to build a better future for everyone.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe we'll even learn something from them along the way.
That's the best part, right? Each generation brings new perspectives and ideas. It's like this constant cycle of learning and growing.
Well said. I think that's a great place to end it.
This has been such an amazing deep dive into Generation Beta. It feels like we've only scratched the surface, but it's given us so much to think about. To all our listeners out there, we encourage you to keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts, your hopes, your ideas about how we can create a world where technology empowers Gen Beta to really thrive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. We also encourage you to visit our website at LarieTalks.com for more inspiring content.
It's been great exploring this topic with you.
Thanks for listening to Larie Talks. We value your feedback and can't wait to hear from you.